everybody. Just to recap on this, we are part of the EdTech Demonstrator Programme up until Easter 2021. If you haven't filled a little form in for me and you're in an English primary school, I will be on your case trying to get you to spend 3 minutes filling in a quick form for me. If you want to know any more about that, you are welcome to ask me later. And also just to let you know, all of this training is free, and you can also get one-to-one consultation with me and head of head of IT within our group as well. So there's lots and lots of support here for schools that should want it. So Google Classroom. Here's some objectives for you that I would hope to be able to cover in the first part here and in the questions as well. So the positives about it, and possibly a couple of negatives over here. Now, as I was talking about earlier, out of the two products that we really backed in our trust, and that was Seesaw and Google Classroom, and for our 28 primaries, we advised them on those two options. There's a slight disappointment in terms of how much development there's been for Google Classroom, and it's always been a product that is aimed at secondary education, and perhaps naively I felt that there would be an acceleration of development with Google Classroom, and perhaps there would be a kind of primary spin-off, or at least features would develop that would help us more. So I'm not 100% enamored with Google Classroom as a product, I will tell you that from the start. And as we go through things, we'll encounter there are a few tricks to get around some of the parts of Google Classroom that you may not feel are so ideal. One thing is keeping on top of what's going on in your Google Class, so the notifications aspect of it. I'm just letting more in here, and I'm also going to mute a couple of others. So the reason we turned to it has to be said, and the reason why it was our sort of number one, we should use this is because we have so many Chromebooks in our primary schools, and whatever I say about Google Classroom, Chromebooks are one of the most amazing things to have happened to primary education in recent years. And we have automatic setup of the classes, so our children don't have to put in codes to join classes or anything like that. So it was a sort of obvious choice, but we can talk about what we might be doing in terms of our use of it later on. The school I work in at the moment, that I teach in, we have Seesaw in years 1 and 2, Google Classroom in years 3 to 6, and we wouldn't have chosen those two options if they didn't both accept a Google login. Okay, so you have to understand that a Google login does not necessarily mean that you have to use Google Classroom. I'm assuming that Lee may be having a bit of trouble hearing at that point. The conversation bar is open, so you can get to that by hovering over the little speech bubble. And so you'll see if you want to type anything in as we go, you are very welcome to do that, and that will appear on the right. I'm assuming that others can hear me because I haven't had a huge round of abuse yet from people. So I will continue. There are some general points here for what we're trying to achieve with these systems. And, if you've been scared about the requirements from Ofsted making schools, provide exactly the same thing at home as in the school, well, there are ways to do that in Google Classroom, but I think we all know that if you're in the school with the teacher, then your experience is necessarily going to be different to if you are outside. So I don't let that prospect of what schools have to provide scare you, okay? Because actually putting material from class into Google Classroom is not necessarily a difficult thing to do. Those schools that provided this kind of parallel provision, as I've called it here, back in summer 2, where you had some children in school and some at home. They've kind of put themselves in a good position because they've already kind of mastered that idea that whatever the children are doing in school is the same as at home. Now, at the moment, you might have 1 or 2 children at home typically, and so I don't think we need to get. We certainly can approach it again differently again to that, and we might not, necessarily on day 1 as the children are home think they've got to have everything that's in the classroom they're provided for them, but as that 2-week period goes on, we can place materials into Google Classroom for them to access. And some more points there about what we want to achieve. I will be sending these slides out to you probably tomorrow if your email is registered to this event. So don't worry about necessarily taking notes from here. There are 9 slides here, and you will get sent them as a PDF so you can access them. So looking into Google Classroom once more here and thinking about it in terms of how we lay things out, thinking about the fact that you're obviously using a Google tool, so it will integrate with other Google systems really easily, and it has to be said that Google login is the most widely accepted login in education technology. Okay, there's loads of products that will offer you a Google login, and that's great for the children because they can basically click on the login and click straight through. And again, I'm going to flag up Chromebooks, which apparently are outselling PC laptops now 5-to-1 in certain schemes for schools, which is great because it shows you that the word has really got round about those devices in school and how well they can work for you. It says here free for education. Well, a word of warning on that. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, every time you say the word Google, they should really be putting 20p in your pocket, shouldn't they? Because the more we say the word, the more ubiquitous this company becomes. So be cynical about this word free when it comes to stuff given to us by the big tech companies. But having said that, it's not as if the schools are rolling in money, is it? So we've got to take what we can, and this may well be something that can work to your advantage. You'll see over here, there's no ability to film videos directly into the web version of Google Classroom. So if you're using the Google Classroom app, yes, you can film directly into there. But these 2 other tools that we'll come on to, Screencastify or Loom, again, you can access those for free. Will do that job really well. Okay, so if you want to include videos in your provision, and I would suggest to you that if we were to go back to a lockdown situation, or you've got a whole bubble of children at home, the video option is a really, really powerful way to make that connection with your class, make parents feel happy about what the teachers and school are providing, and yet you yourselves have not actually done that much. A 1-minute video is a very powerful thing for a class, but to put that together as a teacher is not hugely demanding, particularly the more and more that you do it. So we can get around the fact that video doesn't go directly into the web. Down here, something to think about is the fact that if you're using Word and PowerPoint, which you may well be doing, it won't integrate directly into Google, and in fact it kind of half goes in there, which is sort of worse than it not doing it at all, in my opinion, because people will attach Word documents in their Google Classroom assignments, and you'll find that the families have a lot of trouble with that, not for accessing the Word document, because it will open fine. It's just being able to put it back into the assignment. In essence, they think they've done the work, and they probably have done the work, but they didn't send the work back. Okay, so there are some real annoyances around this, and I will go through the procedure for making Word documents work with this with you. Right, quite a lot to think about then. Let's start with the perhaps easy stuff. Okay, here's a screenshot from the class in which I teach, and you'll see this week beginning structure, okay, that we settled on fairly quickly in this process, and found that that was really quite a nice way to structure things, because parent can log in and they can see underneath a main title, here's the work for the week. Okay, so you might have English tasks Monday to Friday, you might have maths tasks Monday to Friday, you might have some spelling bits in there, you might have another option in there as well. But having this week beginning structure seemed to work quite well for that. And of course, you could take that to different degrees as well. You could have week beginning and that being for English, and week beginning and that being for maths if you wanted. But I would suggest just thinking clearly about what's going to work best for a parent logging in there and thinking, okay, I need to pick up this task and I'm going to do that one. And look, if we go back into lockdown stuff again, which hopefully is not going to happen, let's not fool ourselves and think that every single family is able to log on every single day and follow what's there. They might need to do 2 or 3 of these lessons in one chunk in a day. It might be that they have to log in. It might be that they end up skipping a task because it's not so relevant to them and time has moved on. All right. The reality of family in lockdown is that there is no time. So again, having this sort of pick up and go structure, or pick and choose, certainly has its advantages. I want to now, I'm going to come back to you guys, and again I'm going to say conversation bar is there on the right. If you hover over your Teams window, you'll see that there's a little speech bubble there, and you can click on that and start to put any questions in. I'm going to now share to my browser, which has got some actual Google Classroom windows open. I've got bits from the current Google Class, and I've got some stuff from last year's Google Class. Okay, so here we go. This is where I am currently, and the first thing to say is I've got 3 here. Well, I don't teach 3 classes. I teach this one, and I teach this one a day a week and share it with a colleague who's in there for 4. But in the school, we've got the mixed year 3 and year 4 class. Someone else teaches class 3 and someone else teaches class 4. And so me having access to all 3 of these classes has got its advantages, because if someone's going to set some work for year 3, they can do it from Google Classroom. And in fact, this is one of the things that Google Classroom does really quite well. So if I want to set work for all of year 4, I can set it in my class, and then I can go to this class and I can use the reuse post to do that. So having this access to different classes is a key advantage, and I would encourage you to think carefully about that, because if you get your setup working nicely, your teachers can save a lot of time. Teachers need to know what their roles are within this. Okay, so they need to talk to each other and say, right, I'll do this bit, you do that bit, so that you're not doubling up or editing each other's contributions and things like that. Make it clear for yourselves. Another thing to say about it is, in the lockdown situation in summer term 2, we had a teacher who was out of class for 3 days a week, and that teacher's class was to set all of the work into these classes, okay, and actually be responding to things as well to some extent. So if you go to a bubble situation that's at home, and so it's in a 2-form school, you might want to think carefully about, which parts again are you doing, and just be as, of course, be as efficient as possible with that. I'll jump over to here, and this is current. This is current work. see week beginning 16th. We're on the 16th today, I believe. It's slightly muddled with dates at the moment, but yes, we are. And so this is the homework offer. And our thinking from the beginning was to get parents onto these systems as much as we can. You know, as we went back in September, nobody really knew how things were going to play out, but everyone was of the opinion that the more we can get parents involved in these systems and the more we can get parents to interact, the better for everyone if we have to go into forms of closure and we want parents to access these systems. So ironing out the problems with access while children are actually there, far easier than when everyone is stuck at home and you're trying to do it remotely. Also, it gives schools the opportunity to practice with these systems. You know, my year 3-4 class has had some practice using this system, and you would hope that that then would feed over into their use of it at home. Another point to make, this is the archive class from before the summer break, and you can see that same week beginning structure. If you want to know how you do that, under create here, you've got topic. Okay, and if I create a topic there, I can type in week beginning. Let's say it was, let's put the 12th of December and confuse everyone. Okay, so that's going to go in. You can see that I can drag this around, which is nice. And you'll see that I can actually drag tasks around as well if I want. Be careful with that, you don't get confused. But to be able to drag this around is great, because then you can drag the week that you're in up to the top. Now I better get rid of that because this is a live class. So I'm going to go in and delete that. You'll see it's create topic to do that. So let's get rid of that. Goodbye. There we go. So you'll see drag, drop, move things around. I think we've got next week's as well in here. So that will be coming up there. And look, as I was saying, don't duplicate things. I can see there somebody created another week beginning. They created one here as well, and that hasn't gone away. So just as I was saying, make sure people know who's done what. It can be good for somebody to sort of take charge of things in here if you can. Right, another factor of this, just back to the beginning here, or rather in my class. So this is all within classwork. You've got stream as well, and the stream you can think of as sort of chronological posts that go in here. And actually, if you keep the setting on as standard, it becomes a little bit annoying, the stream, because every bit of classwork you put on ends up having a little sort of notification here in the stream. So there's a couple of things that you may want to change in the settings of your class, and the settings are up here under your cog. Okay, so let's go in there under the cog. See, I've got the class details. Okay, fine. Invitation codes, we can talk about that later if you want. And you'll see here, right on the stream,